Well, then let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dave, and I am one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there are plenty of other things you could be doing at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, so we greatly appreciate you spending some time to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how to use it more effectively in your homeschool. Here at Homeschool Tracker, it is not only our mission to create products that allow you to be more effective in your homeschool, but also to give you the training and the resources to be able to use those products effectively. And so that's what webinars like tonight are really all about. They're all about training and educating and answering any questions you may have about Homeschool Tracker so that you can be more successful in your homeschool. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. A few housekeeping notes for tonight. We will go for about an hour, and we'll cover a lot of different parts about Homeschool Tracker, and then we'll open it up to questions afterwards. And I'm happy to stay on as long as there are questions. Happy to answer all the questions that you may have. Also, we are recording this session, so we will send an email to each and every one of you that has registered with a link to that recording as soon as it's available. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. First off, we will discuss a little bit about where to find help within Homeschool Tracker. As you may have noticed if you've been using it, it is a very feature-rich program, so there are certainly times when you may need some assistance, so I just want to talk a little bit about that. Then we'll dig into the interface and go through the menu of Homeschool Tracker and talk about each one of those menu options. Then we'll discuss subjects and courses and the difference between the two and how to set those up in Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll discuss assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll discuss lesson plans, which are a great time-saving feature that a lot of folks take advantage of. And we'll talk about reports, and specifically the daily task list, and we'll also talk about report cards and transcripts a bit. And then we'll discuss workflows. And what I mean by workflows is really just how you might use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis. And we'll really kind of cover that as we go, but we'll certainly circle back around to recap that as well. And then, like I mentioned, we'll spend plenty of time at the end to answer all of the questions that you may have. Okay, so let's talk first about where to find help. I think probably the best place to find help when learning Homeschool Tracker is right here on webinars like this. We do these pretty much once a month, and typically in August we might do them more often than that since there's a lot of folks signing up around then. And they're really the best opportunity for you to not only kind of get a good primer on how to use Homeschool Tracker, but also it's just a great opportunity to ask your questions live, and we can go through and try different things out and work through the question that you may have. Beyond that, I definitely recommend checking out our Getting Started tutorial videos. You can see those at help.homeschooltracker.com. And right here at the top is our Getting Started video guide. You'll see that it's 11 different parts. Each one of these parts is just a few minutes long, so it'll only take you about 30 minutes to watch all of them. But that's definitely a great resource if you just are looking for one specific answer to your question. And then I would also mention the help documentation itself. So again, here at our help guide, help.homeschooltracker.com, we have really extensive help documentation here. And it's really set up as essentially a resource or reference guide. So one trick that I like to show people is that if you're in Homeschool Tracker, let me just go over here in Homeschool Tracker, and let's just say I'm on the agenda calendar view. If I click on the help link up here in the top right, that will take me directly to the corresponding help page within the help documentation. So here I can see there's a lot of details on everything and anything I wanted to know about the calendar view, along with links off to relevant areas. The other great thing about the help guide here is that you can search within it. So let's say if I wanted to search for days off, for example, I can just type that in and go right to the page here on how to set up days off within Homeschool Tracker. So really a great reference guide on our help center here. I did want to mention, I talked about these webinars as being probably the best place for help. How to find those. If you go to our website, homeschooltracker.com, and just go up to the support tab here and then click on Training Center, you can see all of the upcoming training events and you can register for those. These are all the live training events. And all of our replays are housed here as well. So our monthly webinars are here if you wanted to go back and watch any of those. We also did a webinar specifically on lesson planning, and that's a great one if you are interested in using the lesson planning feature within Homeschool Tracker. We go really in depth on how to use that, and we give lots of tips and techniques within that webinar. And then finally, the best place to find help would just be email. You can email us anytime at support@homeschooltracker.com, and we reply to each and every email that we receive, typically within 1 to 2 business days, but oftentimes much faster than that. And you can email us with any question that you might have, whether it be about a feature within Homeschool Tracker, any issues with your account, or if you're just looking for advice on how to use Homeschool Tracker for your particular situation, we'd be happy to help with that as well. All right, so let's jump into the interface tour. And what we'll do is just kind of go back over here. I'm going to close some of these tabs here. I want to talk a little bit about the menu here, the main menu, right when you log into Homeschool Tracker. So the main menu can be opened and closed just using this little caret icon here. And it's broken up into 5 different areas. Up here on the top left, you have schedules and planning. This is where you'll find the agenda, which is basically your daily to-do list for you or your students. And it's presented both in calendar view as well as list view. You'll also find your lesson plans here, as well as the shared lesson plan library. Below that is the student section of the menu. This is where the main student list is. This is where you can set grade levels for your students. You can see the grading overview, which will show you each and every grade that your student received over a given time period. You'll also find the lesson plans and presets page here, which we'll cover a little bit later tonight. You'll also find the transcript supplemental page where you can add standardized tests or activities or awards to your student's transcript. In the middle section of the menu, you have the reports section. This is where all of the reports can be generated from. So you can create attendance reports, course list reports, the daily task list, which we'll talk about later, the report card, resource reports, transcripts, and plenty more. And each of these reports can be generated as a PDF file, which you can then download, print, email, whatever you like. In the top right section of the menu, this is what we call the Manage List section of the menu. And it's really more of a maintenance area of the program. And I say that because you're probably not going to be in and out of these different pages on a day-to-day basis necessarily. But, for example, if you wanted to add a new activity or edit an activity, this is where you would do it. Same thing with adding or editing chore names. That's where you would do this. This is where your course lists are, your grading scales, the library, setting up your school years and terms. So again, it's not something you're going to be in and out of every day, but it's more of a maintenance area and kind of where you would go to make those different modifications. And then finally, the bottom right section of the menu, this is the Your Account section. This is where the main program options are, where you can set up your school profile, as well as the subscription and users page, where you can modify your subscription settings, change your billing information, change your password, that sort of thing. You can also set up individual accounts for your students here so that they can log in on their own. So that's just a quick overview of the menu and all the different areas of the program. So let's jump into subjects and courses and how we think about those within Homeschool Tracker. So subjects in Homeschool Tracker are really broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, or science. And courses are specific areas of study in your homeschool that might fall underneath a subject. So, for example, Algebra 2 might be the name of a course, and that would fall underneath the subject of math. Composition 1 would be the name of a course that would fall under the subject of language arts. And Physical Science 1 might be the name of a course that falls under the subject of science. So if you think of courses as really those classes that your student might take, for one semester or something like that, that would be the name of a course. And how those courses are organized is the name of a subject. So let's take a look at a demo just so you can see how this looks in Homeschool Tracker. So I'm going to go over to the subjects screen over here. This is in the Manage List section of the menu. And you'll see that I have 4 subjects currently. I have history, language arts, math, and science. And you'll see that there's not really a whole lot of other information here. And that's mainly because, like I mentioned before, subjects are really just these broad areas of study, there's not a lot of settings really within a subject, right? It's more of a container for courses, if you will. So, for example, if I double click on history, I could change the name of it. I could set it to core or elective. I can see all the courses that I have that fall underneath this subject. I can set it to active or inactive, but otherwise not a whole lot to do here. If I wanted to create a new subject, I could click on Action, Add, and give this subject a name and save it. But otherwise, again, subjects are really just kind of a container for courses. So let's go over to my courses screen. I'm going to click on courses here in the Manage List section. And right away, you'll see I have 10 different courses here and a lot more information. The reason there's a lot more information is because each course can have very different settings from another course. And that's by design, so that each course could have a different grading scale or a unique grading scale. It could be worth a number of different credit units. You could have specific descriptions for a course. So for example, let's take a look at Ancient History 1. If I double click on that, you'll see that this course is called Ancient History 1. It belongs to the subject of history. You could have a course code if you'd like. It's worth 1 credit unit right now. I'm choosing this method for how I calculate those credit units. It's using the default grading scale. I could set up weighted grading if I like. I could add notes, and I can set it to active or inactive. So already you can see a lot more kind of specifics or different settings within a course because, again, those courses are much more specific than the subject. So let's go ahead and create a new course. I'm going to click on Action and choose Add. And I'm going to create a course called Reading 1. And Reading 1 would be under the subject of language arts. And you'll notice as I'm typing in language arts pops up here. And that's because this field right here is a smart entry field. And you'll see these throughout the program. Basically what they do is as you type, it searches that corresponding list for anything that matches what you're typing. So in this case, it's searching the subjects list for anything that I'm typing. So as I'm typing language arts pops up. Let's say I didn't know which subject I wanted this to be a part of. I could simply enter in a blank space and it would give me a list of all of my subjects, and I could just click on language arts right there. Now I can modify all these other settings here, but I'm going to keep them the default for now, and I'll go ahead and click Save. Then I'm just going to refresh this, and there you go. I now have a new course called Reading 1. It belongs to the subject of language arts. And now I can start creating assignments for that course. I could start using that course, and it's ready to go. So that's really how we think about subjects and courses within Homeschool Tracker. And it's important that we kind of learn about how we should think about that up front, because if you think about how your homeschool is organized, we tend to organize things on the course level, and then they belong to a subject. And we do that for a reason, because when it comes to creating transcripts or report cards, typically your transcript is organized by the subject, and then below that it has a list of all the courses that your student may have taken. So by kind of setting up this structure of organization ahead of time, you can really define how you want your reports to look much later. So a few things to watch out for. I would not recommend using the exact same name for both a subject and a course. Again, courses are much more specific, so they should be named much more specific. So that's why you saw names like Ancient History 1 or Reading 2 or Reading 1. I wouldn't call a course Language Arts, for example. Maybe I might name it Freshman Language Arts or Language Arts 101 or something like that, but having it be really broad or the same name as the subject would just be confusing, and it would be hard for you to differentiate that within the program. The next thing to look out for is that if you see a slash, a forward slash like this, that just shows the break between subject course within the program. So let me show you what that looks like, because we use this quite often. I'm going to go over to our agenda real quick, and let's just say I'm creating a new assignment. Now, when we're creating an assignment, and you'll see this field throughout the program, we have what we call a subject course field here. Now, this is like a smart entry field like the other one, but we've basically combined the subject and the courses lists into one kind of combined field to save space and make it a little bit easier. And what you can see when I hit the spacebar here is I have a list of all of my subjects and all of my courses. And so, for example, here I have history just by itself. This is the subject of history. Right below that, I have history/ancient history 1. When you see that slash, it's designating the separation between the subject and the course. So if I were to select history/ancient history 1, then this assignment would be essentially assigned to the course ancient history 1. So just something to be mindful of, and you'll see that throughout the program. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about assignments. So within Homeschool Tracker, assignments are essentially anything we are actually assigning to our students, any task that we're giving our students to complete and that we want to track over time. And so because of that, assignments are really the heart of all of our record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. You can see them right here. And assignments come from a couple different places. We can create them individually or in a series, or they can come from a lesson plan that we've created. And as soon as that lesson plan is scheduled, it creates assignments. Now, because assignments are the heart of all your record keeping, there's a lot of different fields and data within the assignment. And so depending on how much information you put into the assignment, you can get out of that all of these assignments a number of different reports and things that might be helpful to you. So for example, you can generate report cards and transcripts because of assignments. If you have auto attendance enabled, you can generate attendance record. You can generate the daily task list so that you and your students can see what you need to do each and every day. And all of those other additional reports can all be generated because of using assignments. So here is a basic assignment entry form. And we actually just saw this a little bit earlier. And basically, each assignment requires a student, a subject course, and a date. Those are really the only required fields. All these other fields are optional. But like I said, the more information you put into an assignment, the more that you can track over time and generate those corresponding reports. So for example, if time spent is an important report that you want to keep track of, then you'll want to make sure you fill out the time spent fields here. If grading in report cards and transcripts is important, then you'll want to make sure that you put in the points possible and the points earned for each assignment. If you are interested in generating resource reports so that you know what resources or books that your student has used over the course of a year, then you'll want to make sure that you're using the resource field. So all of these different fields are there and they're optional, but all of those reports are dependent on you using them. So like I said, if time spent is not important to you, if that's something you don't need to track in your homeschool, then don't worry about it. But if it is, then that is something that you'll want to be mindful of. So when an assignment is marked complete by a teacher, so teachers can mark assignments complete within Homeschool Tracker. And once that happens, a number of things happen because of that. So attendance can be recorded if you're using automatic attendance. Grades are then generated. Time spent is calculated. And so, like I mentioned, all of those reports then can be generated because we've marked an assignment complete. So let's do a quick demo on assignments. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments, and we'll add grades to those, and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. So let's jump back over here. So I'm going to start here in the calendar view. So just clicking on Agenda Calendar View in the Schedules and Planning section of the menu. And what I want to do is I'm just going to create a single assignment. So I'm going to go up to Add, and I'm going to click on Assignment Single. So this is that assignment entry form that we saw earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and make this assignment for my daughter, Campbell. And for the subject course, again, this is a smart entry field, so I can just hit the space bar. Let's just make this for Ancient History 1. The activity, this will be a lesson. The resources, I'm just going to pick one of these resources here. PLC stands for Page Lesson Chapter. So this is just kind of a free text field. I can put in different things here. So I'm going to just call this Lesson 1. And I'll make this assignment for today. And let's say I wanted it to start at 8 a.m. and go to 10 a.m. And it should be worth 10 points. Okay, so I can go ahead and click on Save. And there you go. Now on my agenda, I have an assignment for Campbell for Ancient History 1, and it's Lesson 1. And that's for today from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now, let's say it's the end of the day now, and I want to go in and I want to grade this assignment and mark it complete. Well, I can just double click on it, and that gives me kind of a preview of the assignment here. And if I click on more, I get back to this, this edit screen. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and grade this. She got a 9 out of 10. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it teacher complete just by checking that box. You'll notice that when I clicked on that, it calculated the grade of 90%. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And a few things just happened. So first of all, this assignment got a little bit darker in color, and that just shows me that it's been marked complete. And also, this purple Campbell present showed up here. Now, this is an attendance record, and this was created because I have automatic attendance enabled. You can turn that on or off in your program options. And what it does is it basically says that if there was an assignment marked complete on a particular school day, I'm going to go ahead and assume that your student was in attendance that day, and I'll go ahead and create an attendance record for you. That's kind of a nice feature so that you don't have to think about creating attendance records separately from your assignments. You know, it's just pretty common that if the assignment was completed, then your student was in attendance. So it goes ahead and creates that for you. Now, obviously, you can turn that on or off. You can modify those settings a bit, but it's definitely a nice feature to have. So there you go. We created a single assignment. We added a grade to it, and then we marked it complete and saved it. And you know, just to take a moment to talk a little bit about workflows, you know, there's a lot of folks that do just this each and every day with Homeschool Tracker. They may wake up in the morning or the night before and enter in all the assignments that their student needs to complete the following day or that day and go through their day. And at the end of the day, you might go in and put in the grades, mark things complete, and move on. This also works really well in reverse, or kind of more as a logging tool. So for example, let's say you're not much of a planner, or let's say maybe you have a different planning tool like a binder or some other kind of calendar or something. That's totally fine. What you can do here is basically go into Homeschool Tracker at the end of the day and just log, by creating assignments, just log all of the things that you did that day or that your student did that day, mark them complete, give them grades, that sort of thing. And then Homeschool Tracker really becomes really a tracking and logging tool and less of a planning tool. And that's totally fine. The beauty of Homeschool Tracker is that it can be used in so many different ways. You can take advantage of all the features or just a few of the features. It's totally up to you. So we've seen a lot of success from people that, you know, have a different planning system or just not much of a planner at all, still using Homeschool Tracker to log all of the work that they did. And then they still can generate all those great reports and everything when they need them. So that's how we would create a single assignment, add a grade to it, and mark it complete. What I want to do next is add multiple assignments at once. So let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead. You know what? I'll do that from this screen as well. So let's go click on Add and choose Assignment Multiple. And what I get then is essentially this Add Multiple Assignments wizard. And you could click on each one of these different tabs here at the top of the wizard to go through the process. But basically, I can choose which students I want these assignments for. So that's kind of nice. I can create it for more than one student at a time. And otherwise, I can just start filling this out. So this is for Ancient History 1. Again, these are lessons. I'll just pick one of these resources. And I want these to start at 8 a.m. and go to 10 a.m. And they'll all be worth 10 points. And then I'm going to continue to day and date, and that'll take me to this next tab here. And I want them to happen every day. And I'm going to have it start tomorrow, which is the 24th, right? And what I'm going to do here is I have the option to continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted, or continue creating items until a specific end date. I'm going to choose this PLC pattern is exhausted option here just because I want to show you how that works. So I'll go ahead and continue to PLC. Now, remember, PLC stands for Page Lesson Chapter. And you can imagine if you're creating more than one assignment at a time, it's unlikely that each one of those assignments would have the same page lesson chapter associated with it. You know, assignment number 1, for example, would probably be lesson 1. Assignment number 2 might be lesson 2. Assignment number 3 might be lesson 3, and so on. So what we've created is an ability, this tool really that gives you the ability to automatically increment that PLC field as it creates assignments. So let's go ahead and do a 1-part auto increment. And the leading text for this will be lesson. Oops. And I'm going to start with lesson 2 because we already created lesson 1. And I'm going to end with, let's see, lesson 5. Oops. Actually, let's do lesson 4. So it just goes to Friday. And I'm going to increment by 1. Okay, so I'm going to now continue to preview. So what I'm seeing here, this is just a preview of what I'm about to create. So I'm going to create 3 assignments, and they're basically going to go lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. So because I automatically incremented that lesson field or that PLC field, and I started with lesson 2 and I ended with lesson 4, it's only going to create 3 of them. If I started with lesson 2 and ended with lesson 100, then it would create way more than that, right? So what I've done here is I can now select which items I want to go ahead and create. In this case, I'm going to select all of them, and I'll choose Accept Selected Items. And here you go. Now I have 3 more lessons or 3 more assignments, and it goes lesson 2, 3, 4, all the way out through the end of the week. So you can imagine, again, with workflow, that folks might create a series of assignments at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the month, and kind of schedule it out for that week at a time. And you can do that by adding multiple assignments at once. So let's go over to the agenda list view and see some of the features there. So real quick before we do that, just want to talk a little bit about this calendar view and some of the features here. So you saw the add button here. You can add different types of items here, whether it be assignments or appointments, attendance, chores, or days off. These blue tabs up here at the top, these are all the filters. So what I'm viewing on the calendar will be determined by these filters. So right now I'm viewing all students. If I just wanted to view specific students, I could do that. I can view just specific types of items. So let's say I didn't want to view attendance. I could turn that off. I'll keep that on for now. And then below that, you have this button here, Export to PDF. If I click on that, it'll generate a PDF file of my current view here. And I could then print this out. I could send it to somebody. So that's a really handy feature. And then I have my navigation here. And at the bottom, I have the Show Full Day option. So if I click on that, then the calendar now goes from midnight all the way to midnight. If I click on it again to show school hours, it goes from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in my case. And you can set up your school hours within your program options. So just a quick overview of the calendar view here and the different features that it has. But I want to jump over to the list view. So, you'll see agenda calendar view and agenda list view. They're both the same agenda, but they're just presented to you in a different form, right? So with the calendar view, it's pretty handy because we're all kind of used to looking at a calendar and you can easily kind of see what your week or your month looks like. But it's limited in that you can only do so much editing within a calendar view. The list view, on the other hand, is a little bit more powerful in terms of your ability to edit things. So right away, you'll notice that I can see all of the same items. I've got that attendance record. I have my 4 assignments. They're all right here in a list. And I kind of can see at a glance a lot more information, right? I can see what resources these have. I can see how many points they're worth. I can see that this one was already graded and marked complete. So again, it's the same data, it's the same information, it's just presented in a different way, and it gives you some different options. So here on the list view, in the left column here in the green area, these are all of those filters, right? So I can change the date range that I'm looking at, I can choose the types of items, that sort of thing. In the middle section here, this is essentially the data area or the grid area. And each one of these columns, I can sort by these columns. So if I wanted to sort by date, either ascending or descending, I can do that. I can also group by these columns. So for example, if I wanted to group by type, I would just take this and drag it up here. And now I have all my assignments together. I have all my attendance records together. This is pretty handy if you have like more than one student. You could group by student and see all of their items kind of together. So that's kind of a nice feature. And then finally, you can search within here as well. So if I just wanted to search for lesson, for example, I could just type that in and quickly see everything that matches that search. But what I want to do is show you the ability, how you have the ability to edit more than one item at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and select these 3 assignments and choose Action MultiEdit. What I want to do here is I'm going to grade all of these at the same time. I'm going to give them 8 out of 10 points, and I'm going to go ahead and mark them complete as well. And then I'll save. So you can see all 3 of those assignments were graded, and they all got 80% grades. And then it also created attendance records for each one of those because I have auto attendance enabled. So a really fast and easy way to manipulate a lot of data at once here in the agenda list view. Okay, so just to recap a little bit, we created single and multiple assignments when we added grades to them and we marked them complete. And we did that both from the agenda view, or excuse me, from the calendar view as well as the list view. All right, so let's dive into lesson plans a bit. Now, lesson plans are a really popular feature, but I will say that they are maybe slightly more advanced. So keep in mind that they're definitely optional, and I always like to let new users know that I think it's kind of a good strategy to kind of work up to lesson plans. Start with the agenda and adding single assignments here and there, and then as you need lesson plans, then start using them or creating them. But let's talk a little bit about what they are and how you can use them. So lesson plans are a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So this is perfect if you want to plan everything out in detail all at once, or if you have a predefined curriculum. So let's say you purchase some off-the-shelf curriculum and it has a lesson plan in it. You can essentially create that lesson plan within Homeschool Tracker, and as you go through the year, you can essentially assign those lessons off to your student. Now, this is also really cool because it's not tied to a particular student, so that means it can be reused over and over again. So for example, if you created a lesson plan for freshman biology for your oldest student, when your younger students take that course, you could just pull out that same lesson plan and assign those lesson plan items to them. So you never have to recreate that work. The other nice piece about lesson plans is they can be shared and imported using our shared lesson plan library. So as of right now, there are over 1,000 lesson plans in that shared lesson plan library, a lot of them based off of off-the-shelf curriculum. This is also nice if you're part of a co-op or a group. You could have one member create the lesson plan and then share it with everybody else. So really some powerful features within lesson plans. So let's do a quick demo. So what we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan. So once you see it, I think it'll make more sense. Then we'll create a simple lesson plan. We'll import one from the shared lesson plan library, and then we'll schedule a lesson plan, and we'll discuss presets. So let's go ahead and see a lesson plan first. I'm just going to go over to my lesson plan screen. And now, if it's your first time in here, you might not have any lesson plans, right? Because you'll have to create one first. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one that I have. Let's just open this Abeka arithmetic lesson plan. And first thing you might notice that this screen looks a lot like the agenda list view. And that's just because we like to use a lot of the same paradigms throughout the program. So over here on the left, you have your filters, and in the middle, you have all the data. And the other thing you might notice that each one of these items here looks a lot like an assignment. But it's not. It's a lesson plan item. So for example, let's just open up this first one here. You'll notice that this, again, looks a lot like that assignment entry field. But what's missing is it's missing a student and it's missing a date, right? Because lesson plans are not tied to a student and they're not tied to any specific date at this point. What all they are, you could think of them more as like an assignment template, right? So everything that you see here could become an assignment if all I did was give it a date and a student, right? So that's really kind of the power of the lesson plan. I can create all of these in a sequence, in a very specific sequence, and then once I'm ready to use them, then I would give them a date and a student, and that's what we call scheduling. So let's take a look here. You'll see that on the first day of this lesson plan, we're doing lesson 1. Then we do lesson 2, 3, 4, 5. This all the way goes through day 11 with lesson 11. Then on day 12, we have a test that's worth 100 points. And then also on day 12, we have another test worth 100 points. Then we do 4 more lessons, and then 2 more tests, and so on and so forth. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, we see that this goes for 171 days, and there are 202 total items. So this is really an entire year's worth of arithmetic lessons, all set up and ready to go within this lesson plan. So that just gives you a basic idea of what a lesson plan might look like. Let's go ahead and create a simple lesson plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Add and choose Add Multiple. And again, like I mentioned, creating lesson plan items is very similar to creating assignments, but again, we just don't have a student or a date. So this looks a lot like the Add Multiple Assignments wizard. So first off, it defaults to the lesson plan that I was working on, but if I want to create a new lesson plan, I can just type in a new name here. So I'm going to call this Sample Plan. And you'll notice that as I was typing that in, nothing popped up because that name does not exist. But if I go ahead and just type it in, it'll save that as a new lesson plan when I'm finished here. So the subject course, let's make this for Ancient History 1. And these will be lessons. And let's just go ahead and pick a resource. And these will all be worth 10 points. Okay. Now I'm going to continue to day numbers. So I want to start on day 1 and I'll increment by 1. Then I'll go to PLC, page lesson chapter. And this will be a 1-part auto increment. We will call these lessons and we'll start with 1 and let's go to 15, incrementing by 1. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. And here's a preview of what I'm about to create. So you'll see I'm creating 15 lessons and they start at lesson 1 and go through lesson 15 and they're all worth 10 points. Now again, this is just a preview, so I want to make sure that I save these. So I'll go ahead and select all of these, and then I'll choose Accept Selected Items. Okay, so now we're back on the lesson plan screen. Let me go ahead and load up that sample plan. And there you have it. I have a sample lesson plan here with 15 days and 15 lessons. Let's say I want to go ahead and add a test at the end of this. I'm going to just choose Add Single. And this will be for Ancient History 1, and we'll call this a test. And this will be for let's do it on day 16, and it's worth 100 points. Let's go ahead and save that. And now we have 15 lessons, and then on day 16, we have a 100-point test. So very quickly, I was able to generate this 16-day lesson plan. And obviously, I could continue this process for the rest of the curriculum for this course. Or this might just be one specific lesson or exercise that we're doing during the course as we're teaching it. So definitely a lot of flexibility here. I would say if you are interested in learning more about lesson plans, to definitely check out that lesson plan webinar that we did because we really dive deep into creating lesson plans and strategies for creating them really efficiently. Okay, so let's jump back over here. And next, what I want to do is I want to show you how to import import a lesson plan from the shared lesson plan library. So I'm going to go over to shared lesson plans. And like I mentioned, our shared lesson plan library has over 1,000 lesson plans that have been created by users just like you. If I want to see all of them, I can just put in a blank search here. Oops. And it will load up all of them. So you can see there are tons of lesson plans in here, and a lot of them are based off of off-the-shelf curriculum. So again, these are all created by other users. So they might not be perfect, right? We all kind of do things a little bit differently, but they might be a great inspiration or a good start to something that you might be working on. But what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and search in here for reading. And I'm going to go ahead and choose this Usborne First Reading Level 1 plan. Now this is a 15-day plan, as you can see. And you can tell somebody took the time to import all of this. So what I want to do is I'm going to import this. I'm going to prepare this for import. And what I want to do is I need to give this lesson plan a name. I'm going to call it Reading 1. Then I need to select which items I want to import. So I'm going to choose all of them. And then before I accept the selected items, I notice that the subject course here is just language arts. So that's really just the subject, language arts. But I want these to belong to that new course that we created called Reading 1. So I could do that after I import this, but I could also do it now. So I'm going to choose Action, MultiEdit, and I'm going to change this to reading 1 right here. And I'll click save. So there you go. This is modified now to reading 1. You'll notice these asterisks here too. These just basically mean that these items here, they don't exist in my account currently. So when it imports this, it's going to create them for me, which is great. So with all of these selected, I'm going to choose accept. And there you have it. Now we're back on the lesson plan screen, and this is my lesson plan reading 1. And I have it imported into my account for my use. So that's really simple to import a shared lesson plan. Let's go ahead now and schedule this lesson plan. So this is really, where you're actually going to use this lesson plan now. So we've imported it, or we've created our own, and now we want to give it to our students to work on. So what I want to do is I'm going to choose the items I want to schedule. So I'm just going to schedule 1 week at a time. I'm going to pick 5 of these. I'm going to choose Action, Scheduler. I'm going to schedule these for Campbell, and now I'll continue to day and date. And I want these to be from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I'm going to have them start. I'm going to have them start on Monday. Yesterday, just so that it fills out this week. And I can choose to continue until all selected items in the lesson plan are used, or until an end date. Since I just picked 5 of them, I'm going to choose this option. And I'll hit continue to preview. You'll see that continue to preview button quite a bit because we always want you to see what you're about to do before you actually do it, right? So here we go. I've got my 5 lesson plans, or excuse me, my 5 lesson plan items. And now we're adding a student to them, and we're adding a date to them. So all 5 of these are about to become assignments for Campbell. So let's go ahead and select them and choose accept selected items. Now, what you'll notice as we're kicked back here to the lesson plan screen, these lesson plan items, they're still here, right? They didn't go anywhere. All we did is we selected them, and we essentially created assignments out of these lesson plan items. So like I said before, kind of think of these as like as assignment templates. That's really what they are. I took these 5 items, and I said, I want these 5 items, and I'm going to assign them to Campbell on these specific dates. You can almost imagine it like if you were to bring this kind of into the physical realm, right? You might have a lesson plan, which is like a stack of papers on your desk, and it's in a very specific order. Maybe that's like a stack of worksheets or something. And I want to assign these next 5 worksheets to Campbell. I might take the 5 from the top of the stack and Xerox them, and then give her the copies, right? And I put those original 5 back on the lesson plan. So think of it kind of like that if you needed like a physical parallel to think about it. All right, so now if I go over to the agenda, the calendar view, we can see that these assignments are now here on the agenda. So Monday through Friday, I have reading 1, and each one of these is slightly different because each one was different for those first 5 days of that lesson plan. So that's how easy it is to schedule a lesson plan. Now, I like to think of that as kind of the basic scheduler. And before I get to that, so when we think about workflow, right, you could essentially have a lesson plan, and if you wanted to schedule it each week for your student, perhaps Sunday night you would go in, choose the choose the lessons that you want to schedule, and then schedule them for the week ahead. And then at the end of the week or at the end of each night, you could go in, mark them complete or give them grades, and you're off and running. Now this scheduler where you go in and you pick each item and then schedule it, that's kind of what we call our basic scheduler. We also have a much more advanced scheduler that I'd like to show you now. So if we go to the lesson plans and presets page, this will load up all of the active lesson plans for Campbell using this advanced scheduler. And I call it advanced because it basically lets you schedule more than 1 lesson plan at a time. So we can see all of the lesson plans that she's currently using here. I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit, because what I want to do is I want to add that reading 1 lesson plan to the plans that she's using for this scheduler. This section of the program does take a little bit longer to load because it's essentially sourcing all of the lesson plan items for Campbell here. So let's go ahead and check the box for reading 1. And then I'm going to go to Preset. So presets are preset times in days on the calendar or in my week when I want specific courses to occur. So you can see I have a preset from Monday through Friday from 9 to 10 for Ancient History 1, one from Monday to Friday from 10 to 11 for spelling, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a preset for reading 1, and I want that to be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, so now I have a preset for that. And what these presets do is it allows the scheduler, if you select the preset option, it allows the scheduler to basically pick the specific days and times that you've outlined here for your presets for each one of those courses. So if I just know that I want my week to look like a certain way, I can set up my presets here. When I go to schedule things, I can just choose that preset option, and the scheduler will basically just go and it'll drop in assignments at the specific times when I want those courses to occur throughout my week. So let's go to the scheduler now. And again, this advanced scheduler allows me to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So I have 7 lesson plans here. I'm going to keep all of them checked, and I will choose continue to day and date. Now, here under the day options, instead of choosing one of these options here, I'm going to choose preset. So again, it's going to look at my presets, and it's going to go through all 7 of those lesson plans, and it's going to find the next lesson plan item. It's going to schedule it at the corresponding time on my presets. So I'm going to do this for next week. Let's do Monday the 29th, and I will continue until an end date. I'm going to go through June 2nd. We recommend only scheduling like 1 week or 2 weeks at a time. It just gives you the most flexibility when you're working with lesson plans or even with assignments in general. So let's go ahead and continue to preview now. So here we go. Out of those 7 lesson plans across the next week, I'm now creating 48 assignments here. And so you can see it goes all the way throughout the whole week. And if we look closely, Monday, from 9 to 10 a.m., I have 2 Ancient History 1 assignments. I've got some spelling assignments from 10 to 11, Physical Science 1 from 1 to 2. And here's that Reading 1 assignment from 3 to 4 because we had that preset from 3 to 4. If I jump down to Tuesday, you'll see from 3 to 4, I have another Reading 1 assignment. So really in just a few clicks, right, I was able to schedule 7 different lesson plans across an entire week at very specific times. And each one of these assignments is exactly what we put into our lesson plan. Who knows how long ago, right? We may have created that lesson plan today, or we may have created that lesson plan 5 years ago, but it's exactly all of the content and everything that we want for that particular assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and choose accept. And now it's going to go ahead and create all 48 of those assignments from those 7 different lesson plans. Okay. And so when we think about workflow, right, you could have lesson plans for each one of your courses. You could have presets for each one of your courses. And each and every week, you could come in on a Sunday night, for example, and you could go in and schedule out your week ahead and always in just a few clicks, just a few minutes, and kind of be totally planned and ready to go. So this was this week. If I go to next week, there you go. There's 48 assignments all on the calendar at very specific times, ready to go for Campbell for next week. So that would be obviously very difficult to do if I was entering one assignment at a time, because I'd have to know exactly what I wanted in it, and I'd have to make sure I had it at the right time. But using lesson plans and using presets, I'm able to quickly generate all of those specific details with just a few clicks. Okay, so just to recap, we saw an example lesson plan, we created a simple lesson plan, we imported one from the shared library, and then we scheduled those plans, both using kind of the basic scheduler as well as the more advanced scheduler. So let's talk a little bit about reports now. So reports are created as PDFs that you can save, print, or send. And the daily task list is a great report to use on a day-to-day basis. which I'll show you here in a minute. And then transcripts and report cards. Now, those can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So all you need is one assignment that is marked complete and has a grade on it for that course to show up in a transcript or report card. But let's go ahead and take a look at the daily task list real quick. So if I go up to the menu and choose Daily Task List, I can create a task list, and I have all these different options here. I'm just going to kind of keep the default for now. But this will be for Campbell, and I'm going to have it be for next week, that week that we just scheduled. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Generate Report. Now that it's ready, I will pick up the report, and that'll download a PDF to my computer here. And here it is. So you can see Monday, I have a very detailed list of all the things that she has to do. Then Tuesday, and so on. So here in 4 pages, just over 4 pages, I have a very specific and detailed report that I could print out. I could put that on a bulletin board, on a clipboard, and then Campbell will know exactly what she needs to complete each and every day. So a really handy tool, especially if you like to print things out. The daily task list could certainly work for you. Okay. Now, just to recap a little bit on workflows, we discussed these as we went, but obviously you can create and complete single assignments on a daily basis. You know, we have a lot of users doing just that, and actually it's kind of a great way that I would recommend that you start using Homeschool Tracker, just creating single assignments at a time, getting a feel for how it works, how it's interacting with your subjects and courses and your students and your grading and all of that. And even doing it kind of as a logging tool at the end of the day, right? So if it seems kind of overwhelming to have to know what you're going to do the day ahead and have to plan those out and put those assignments in, I would recommend just use whatever kind of planning tool you're using now, or whatever binder or curriculum you have, and just kind of go about your day and start inserting Homeschool Tracker where it makes sense. So go about your day tomorrow, and then at the end of the day, go into Homeschool Tracker and log all of the things that you did as assignments, and then keep doing that for a while. And what you'll find is that I think as you do that and you become more familiar and comfortable with the program, you'll start taking advantage of more and more of the features. So that's kind of a starting workflow. And then obviously, as we saw a little bit later tonight, there are much more advanced workflows using lesson plans and the ability to schedule, all of your students 1 week at a time, kind of all at once using multiple lesson plans. That's kind of a much more involved and extreme workflow, but certainly very time-saving and helpful if you get to that point. But I think there's a wide range of different workflows between those two scenarios that you could certainly take advantage of. And that's really one of the cool things about Homeschool Trackers. We find that there's so many different ways to use it. And each day we're continually surprised by how people are taking advantage of all the different tools within Homeschool Tracker to create workflows that really work well for their homeschool. All right, so that's it for kind of the main program of the presentation tonight. We will now turn it over to questions. If you have any, feel free to click on that Q&A button there in your viewer and ask away, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. One thing I will mention, if you've been tuning in tonight, we would love to award you with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. We know just how much of a commitment it is to sit through one of these presentations for an entire hour, so we greatly appreciate it. And we also know that folks that do attend these training sessions are significantly more successful with using Homeschool Tracker in their homeschool. So it's our gift to you. We would be happy to give you a free month of Homeschool Tracker. Essentially what we'll do is we'll pull a report of everybody that attended tonight, and we will extend your subscription by a month totally on us. If you're not yet a Homeschool Tracker user, we'll reach out to you and let you know how you can kind of take advantage of that same offer. Okay, so question coming in here. Lisa asks, how do you move assignments when a student gets sick? That's a great question, Lisa. And it comes up quite often, as you know. So what I'd like to show you, essentially what we're talking about when we're talking about moving assignments is rescheduling, right? So I will say the easiest way to move an assignment is right here on the calendar view. So if I wanted to move an assignment, I could just click and drag it, right? I can move it to a different day, a different time, etc. But that's only helpful really if I just need to move a couple things here or there, or change how long something is, if I wanted this to be longer or shorter. But if I wanted to move all of these assignments, that would be a little bit difficult to do from the calendar view. So I need to go over to the list view. And what I'll do is I'll load up next week, so all 48 of those assignments. And let's say Campbell was sick on Monday, right? And I want to move all of those assignments forward a day, basically just bump them one day, right? What I'll do is I'll select all, I'll choose Action, Reschedule. Then what I'll do is I'll change the start date here. So instead of everything starting on the 29th, I'll have it start on the 30th. And I'll go to Continue to Preview. And so again, like I said, we always allow you to preview everything before you commit to it. So you'll see here that this assignment has an existing date of Monday and a new date of Tuesday. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking all 48 of these and I'm bumping them forward a day. So I'm going to select all of these and then choose Accept. So now if I go to the calendar view, it's easier to kind of see this visually on the calendar view. You'll see that Monday is now wide open. So Campbell was sick on Monday and everything else was bumped forward a day. All the time stayed the same, everything's the same, but it just moved forward one day. So even if I go to next week, you'll see that now I'm kind of creeping into next week by a day. Now let's say she was sick again. She was sick on Tuesday, but I don't want to lose another day. I don't want to bump everything forward yet another day. What I'd rather do is just kind of bump just Tuesday forward and kind of double up the work on Wednesday to try to play catch up. Well, I can do that as well. So if I just go back to my list view here, what I can do is I can just select Tuesday's items like this, and I will do Action, Reschedule, and I'll move these forward just one day to Wednesday, and I'll continue to preview. And what you'll see this time is you'll see existing date Tuesday, new date Wednesday. Then down here in green, you'll see, hey, there's an existing item on Wednesday. It's basically saying there's going to be some conflicts, but I know that because I know I just want to play catch up here. So I'll select all of these and choose Accept. So now if I go back to my calendar, you'll see Wednesday now is super busy for Campbell. We're all cleared up on Tuesday, so she's got 2 days off. But now we're going to start catching up here on Wednesday. And if I go to next week, we still are caught up by Monday. We don't lose yet another day. So that's how you would reschedule assignments, kind of bumping things forward a day, either all of them forward a day or one specific day just forward a day. This is also one of the key reasons why we suggest only scheduling like 1 week or 2 weeks at a time, because it gives you this kind of flexibility. If we had scheduled our entire year out, and let's say there are literally hundreds of days in the future of scheduled assignments, and I wanted to bump everything forward one day, that would become incredibly complex to move everything forward one day and have everything kind of still work the way that you had intended it to. So that's why we like to just recommend that users schedule just 1 week or 2 weeks at a time, because it really allows you much more flexibility when it comes to rescheduling. It also allows you flexibility if you end up working faster or slower than you had expected, right? Because if you end up working faster, then great, you can just pick up where you, once you're kind of finished with your schedule, and now assign things a little bit maybe at a faster pace the next time around. And if you're too slow, or if you're slower than you thought, it's much easier to shuffle things around and extend things out further versus having to move literally thousands of assignments if you had scheduled your entire year. So hopefully that was helpful, Lisa. All right, Kendall is asking, is there a transcript option that displays numerical letter grades as well as credit earned? Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if I can show you a transcript from this account here because I don't have any grades. Well, actually, let's see. Let's just go to transcript full page because I did grade a few assignments. Let's just see if anything shows up here. Right. So, I graded those few assignments in Ancient History 1. So we're seeing an 82.5 for semester 2 right now, and the letter grade of B, as well as a credit unit of 1. So you can see in this option, this was the transcript full page one, that I'm seeing the numerical grade, the letter grade, as well as the credit unit, all for Ancient History 1. Let me make this bigger for you. And again, not to hammer on this too much, but this is why subjects and courses are so important. So this is what I was talking about before, where a transcript is generally organized. I have my school year here, and then it goes subject, and then goes course, right? So if I had other courses here, I'd say I did Ancient History 1 and I did Ancient History 2. You would see Ancient History 1, then you'd see Ancient History 2 below it, and it would all belong to this history subject here. Then below that, I might have math, and then I might have like geometry 1 and trigonometry 1, etc. So that's why subjects and courses and the whole organization, really, that's why it exists. It's really just for this, right? It's so that you can have your grading kind of cumulatively add up properly and have it presented well in a transcript or report card. Hopefully that is helpful, Kendall. There are a number of other options here, as you'll see, of what you can turn on and off within your transcript. And there are 2 other transcript formats here as well. So for example, you can have this combined format and this column format. I won't show you those right now, but you can certainly play with those to see what the differences are. Okay, Rebecca is asking, I plan the whole year over the summer because I work during the school year. Should I use lesson plans and sign a week or 2 at a time? Absolutely. I mean, that's like the perfect use of lesson plans, right? I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if prior to using Homeschool Tracker, somebody in this situation may sit down with a calendar or a binder and start just filling it out ahead of time, over the summer for the entire year. And you would end up in the same situation I'm talking about, where if you needed to reschedule things, it's literally written in ink. It might be difficult to do that, right? So the beauty of lesson plans is you can sequence the entire course or the entire year, really, of what you want your student to accomplish, and kind of save that as a lesson plan. And then as you go throughout your year, just take the next 5 lesson plan items, or however many it is, and assign them to your, always write in pencil. I agree, Rebecca. But then that's a lot of erasing, right? And then you're like copying. Anyway, what I would say is, you just create that master lesson plan for each course, or even I see a lot of folks create a lesson plan per student, right? That's another way to do it if you wanted to. Or you could even have an entire lesson plan for a whole grade level, because I was showing you lesson plans where each item in the lesson plan was the same subject course. They were all like Ancient History 1 or something, or Reading 1, but you can have different subjects courses within the same lesson plan. So you could have a semester 1 lesson plan if you wanted, and it could have all of your different subjects and courses kind of combined into one. Obviously, it could get more complicated that way, however you think about it. But that's the beauty of this, is that you can really use it in a way that works well for you and how you like to operate. But yeah, I would absolutely recommend, in your case, Rebecca, to work on your lesson plans over the summer, and then as you go throughout your year, just assign them 1 week or 2 weeks at a time. I think you'll find that to be really a great workflow. Okay, let's see. Kendall's asking, could you explain when you would use a 2-part increment on PLC? I'm kind of confused. Absolutely. Now, the PLC can certainly, this auto increment thing can certainly get confusing, but I think you'll also see that it can be really powerful, right? So let me go ahead and show you. I'm going to create assignment multiple. And let's go ahead and just kind of throw some stuff in here. We're going to create a bunch of lessons again. And we'll continue to day and date. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping through this part just because we saw this before. Okay, so here we are on the PLC auto increment. I'm going to do a 2-part auto increment. So the 1 part we saw earlier, that's kind of if you want to go lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, right? A 2-part auto increment might be if you want to go lesson 1A, lesson 1B, lesson 2A, lesson 2B, right? So you've got two different things incrementing at different rates in that case. And you actually see this a lot in textbooks or in workbooks, right? Where you actually, in this example here, where we are outlining lesson 1.a. So let's just figure this out. So I would want the leading text to be lesson. I'm going to start with 1, and I'm going to go to 5, and I'm going to increment by 1. And then I'm going to have a separator. So the separator in this case can be like a hyphen. It could be a dot. I'm going to use a dot. And I'm going to start with A. I'm going to go to D. Okay. So before I hit continue to preview, let's walk through this and kind of guess what it's going to look like, right? So if the first part is lesson 1 through 5, and the second part is dot A through D, if I did this right, it should go lesson 1.a, lesson 1.b, lesson 1.c, lesson 1.d. Then it should go lesson 2.a, lesson 2.b, lesson 2.c, lesson 2.d, and then lesson 3, and so on, right? Up until we get to lesson 5.d, which would be the last one, okay? So that's the theory right now. Let's go ahead and continue to preview and see if that's what happens. All right, here you go. So that's 20 items. And you'll see lesson 1.a, lesson 1.b, lesson 1.c, lesson 1.d, and then lesson 2.a. So there you go, it worked. And so this obviously is very specific to maybe how you might be organizing things, but you end up seeing things like this quite often. And that's why the 1 part or the 2 part, and we can even go up to 3 parts, can be useful, right? So hopefully that answers your question, Kendall. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to send them in. I'm seeing some folks coming in. Oh, okay. Kendall, I see your chat ones here too. There's like a Q&A function. There's also a chat function within this webinar thing, and I don't always look at the chat, but awesome. Glad that worked out. Any other questions? Feel free to send those in. Happy to answer anything you might have. And again, we are recording this, and so we'll send each one of you an email as soon as that recording is available with a link to it. We'll also send you a survey. In that survey, you can rate this webinar. You can tell us if it was helpful or not, and give us ideas for other webinar topics that might be helpful to you in the future. Yes, Kendall's asking or saying that you need to watch the lesson plan webinar as well. I definitely recommend that for everybody that is interested in lesson planning. We spend, I think it was an hour and a half just talking about lesson plans. And one of the cool things is we showed you, I went and I brought in kind of an off-the-shelf curriculum, and I just showed you like the table of contents of that book. And then we basically copied that into Homeschool Tracker creating a lesson plan. So this is probably a familiar workflow or a familiar situation that a lot of people might find themselves in, where they ordered some curriculum or they bought some curriculum, and they get it in the mail, and they're like, okay, great, I've got this book and we want to do it this year, but how do I put this into Homeschool Tracker? How do I use the Homeschool Tracker with this? Well, we go through an example just like that, where we open up the book and we've got the table of contents, and we kind of turn that into a lesson plan within Homeschool Tracker. And we do it pretty quick. It's pretty easy to do if you can kind of plan it out in advance. So definitely check that lesson planning webinar out. I think it might be helpful. All right, so if there are no other questions, I think we'll wrap up for tonight. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really absolutely appreciate you spending time with us. Like I mentioned before, we'll pull a report of everybody that attended, and we'll credit you with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. So we absolutely appreciate you spending the time with us. We know what a commitment it is. And so again, just thank you so much. So with that, we'll sign off for tonight. But again, thanks for joining us, and we'll hope to see you again soon. Have a good night.